Welcome to this chapter of The Nameless Castle, written by Maurus Jókai, Jókai Mór in Hungarian. I'm Aniko and I'll be your narrator. This is part 1, titled Cythera's Brigade. Chapter 3, part 2. Enjoy the story. Meanwhile, Monsieur Cambray drove rapidly in the Marquis de Fervon's carriage through the streets of Paris. He was buried in thought. He glanced only now and then from the window. He was not altogether satisfied with himself that he was riding in a carriage which belonged to so important a person, a gentleman whose name he had never heard until that day. Suddenly he was surprised to find a carriage entering a gateway. A carriage could not enter the gate at his lodgings. The Swiss hussar sprang from the box, opened the carriage door, and Monsieur Cambray found himself confronted by a sergeant with a drawn sword. "This is not my residence," said the old gentleman. "Certainly not," replied the sergeant. "This is the prison of Saint Pelagie." "What have I to do here? My name is Alfred Cambray." "You are the very one we have been expecting." And now it was Monsieur Cambray's turn to laugh merrily. When Monsieur Cambray's pockets had been searched and everything suspicious confiscated, he was conducted to a room in the second story in which he was securely locked. He had plenty of time to look about his new lodgings. Apparently, the room had been occupied by many an important personage. The walls were covered with names. Above some of them impromptu verses had been scribbled, others had perpetuated their profiles, and still others had drawn caricatures of those who had been the means of lodging them here. The guillotine also figured among the illustrations. The new lodger was not specially surprised to find himself a prisoner. What he could not understand was the connection between the two events. How come it about that the courteous and sympathetic Marquis de Fervon's carriage had brought him here from the palace of the deeply grateful Countess? He was puzzling his brain over this question when his door suddenly opened and a morose old jailer entered with some soup and bread for the prisoner. "Thanks, I have dined," said Monsieur Cambray. The jailer placed the food on the table with the words, "I want you to understand, citizen, that if you have any idea of starving yourself to death, we shall pour the soup down your throat." Toward evening another visitor appeared. The door was opened with loud clanking of chains and bolts, and a tall man crossed the threshold. It was the Marquis de Fervon. His manner now was not condescending and sympathetic. He approached the prisoner and said in a commanding tone that was evidently intended to be intimidating, "You have been betrayed and may as well confess everything. It is the only thing that will save you." A scornful smile crossed the prisoner's lips. "That is the usual form of address to a criminal who has been arrested for burglary." The Marquis laughed. "I see, Monsieur Cambray, that you are not the sort of person to be easily frightened. It is useless to adopt the usual prison methods with you. Very well, then we will try a different one. It may be that we shall part quite good friends. What do I say? Part? Say rather that we may continue together, hand in hand. But to the point, you have a friend who shared the same apartment with you. This gentleman deserted you last night, I believe." "The ingrate!" ironically ejaculated Monsieur Cambray. "Beg pardon, but there was also a little girl secreted in your apartment whom no one ever saw." "Pardon me, monsieur," interrupted Cambray, But it is not the custom for French gentlemen to spy out or chatter about secrets which relate to the fair sex. I am not talking about the sort of female you refer to, monsieur, but about a child, a girl of perhaps 12 years. How, pray, can one determine the age of a lady whom no one has seen? Certain telltale circumstances give one a clue, retorted de Fervlon. Why, for instance, do you keep a doll in your rooms? A doll? I play with it myself sometimes. I am a queer old fellow with peculiar tastes. Very good. We will allow that you are telling the truth. What have you to say to the fact that you took to your apartment yesterday evening a stray child, and an hour later your friend came out of the house with another child, wrapped in the shawl which had enveloped the lost child when you found her? Have they been overtaken? Hastily interrupted Cambray, forgetting himself. No, they haven't. More's the pity, returned the Marquis. My detective was not clever enough to perceive the difference between the 8-year-old girl who was carried to your apartment at 10 o'clock and the 12-year-old little maid whom your friend brought downstairs at 11, pretending that he was going in search of the lost child's mother. Besides, everything conspired to aid your friend to escape. He was too cunning for us, and got such a start of his pursuers that there was no use trying to follow him. We do not even know in what direction he has gone. Cambray repressed a sigh of relief which would have lightened his heart, and forced himself to say indifferently, Neither the young man nor the child concern me. It is his own family affair in which I never meddled. That is a move I cannot allow, Monsieur Cambray, sharply responded the Marquis. There are proofs that you are perfectly familiar with his affairs. Again Cambray smiled scornfully. You have evidently searched my lodgings. We have done our duty, monsieur. We even tore up the floors, broke your furniture and ornaments, for which we apologize, and found nothing suspicious. Notwithstanding this, however, we know very well that you received a letter yesterday warning you of approaching danger. We know very well that you and your friend traced out the route of his flight. We have a witness who listened to your plans and who fitted together the scraps of the torn letter of warning and read it. And who may this witness be? Queried Cambray. The child you picked up in the street. What? Ejaculated Cambray incredulously. The little girl who sat shivering in the snow? Yes, she's our most skilful detective, and has entrapped more than one conspirator, triumphantly interrupted de Fervlon. Then, and Monsieur Cambray brought his hands together in a vehement gesture, what I have believed the myth is really true. The police authorities really employ a number of beautiful women, handsome young men, and clever children to spy out and entrap suspected persons. Cythera's brigade really exists? You had the pleasure of meeting that celebrated brigade this morning, replied de Fervlon. And those grateful men and women who gathered about me with tearful eyes and sympathetic words were members of Cythera's brigade, supplemented the Marquis. And the mistress of the house, the beautiful woman who fainted at sight of her child, is the fair Cythera's substitute. She taught her little daughter the part she played so successfully. With sudden fury, Monsieur Cambray tore from his breast the ivory locket containing the little Emily's portrait and was about to fling it on the floor and trample upon it. On second thought, he restrained himself, returned the locket to his breast, and muttered, The child is not to blame. Those who have made her such a monster are at fault. I will keep the miniature as a talisman for the future." "And now, Monsieur Cambray," pursued the Marquis, "we want to learn what has become of your friend. In fact, we must know what has become of him and his charge." "I don't know where he is." "You do know. According to the report from our witness, he has fled to a country where order prevails and where there are no police. Where is this country, Monsieur Cambray?" "On the moon, perhaps," was the laconic response. "Our witness heard these words from your own lips, and you pointed out the spot on the map to your friend." "Your witness dreamed all this." "Monsieur Cambray, let us talk sensibly. You are a banker. At least, that is what you are registered in the police records. It is to the interest of the state to discover your secret. If you will reveal the hiding place of your friend, you may demand your own reward. Do you wish to be entrusted with the management of the state's finances, or—" "I regret, Monsieur le Marquis," interrupted Cambray, "that I must refuse so handsome an opportunity to enrich myself. Although I am a banker, I am no swindler." "Very good. Then you require no money." "You are not a banker, Monsieur Cambray. That is merely a fable." "What is your ambition? Should you prefer to be a governor?" "Name any office. Let it be what it may, you shall receive the appointment tomorrow." "Thank you again, monsieur. I must repeat what I said before. I know nothing about the future residence of the fugitive gentleman." "And if I tell you, Monsieur Cambray, that your refusal may cost you your head?" "I should reply," returned Cambray, smiling calmly as he took up the piece of bread lying on the table, "that it is a matter of perfect indifference to me if this daily portion of bread is enjoyed by someone else tomorrow. That which I do not know, I cannot tell you." "Very well, then," in a harsh tone rejoined de Fervaulon. "I will tell you that Cambray the banker may say what is not true, but the nobleman cannot lie. Marquis d'Avancourt, do you know to which country your friend has flown?" At this question the old gentleman rose from his chair, drew himself up proudly, and gazing defiantly into the eyes of his questioner, replied, "I do." Instantly de Fervaulon's manner changed. He became the embodiment of courtesy. He bowed with extreme politeness, then, slipping his arm familiarly through that of the prisoner, whispered insinuatingly, "And what can we do to win this information from you?" The gray-haired man released himself from de Fervaulon's arm and answered with quiet irony, "I will tell you what you can do. Have my head cut off and send it to Monsieur Bichet, the celebrated professor of anatomy. Perhaps he may be able to discover the information in my skull, if it is there. And now I beg you to leave me. I wish to be alone." De Fervaulon took up his hat, but turned at the door to say, in a meaning tone, "Marquis d'Avancourt, we shall forget that you are a prisoner so long as it shall please you to remain obstinate. As for the fugitives, Cytherea's brigade will capture them sooner or later. Au revoir." That same night the old nobleman was removed to the prison at Ham.